is the fiscal agent for this grant program and receives funds from the U.S. Department of Justice through a grant program. City of Duncanville was allocated $13,292 for this coming fiscal year. After administrative fees, our allocation will be $8,653. So we're asking for approval to apply for those fundings and accept that grant funding with the intent of purchasing electronic citation printers. That is for issuing citations when police officers are out. Those are the printers that go along with that to be able to print the citations.
Did I read in there correctly? This is going to be able to purchase 8?
10, I believe
10?
it was. 10 out of the 8. So we have 18 that need to be replaced, and this was going to purchase 10 of
Okay.
those. Item 4C is a resolution repealing the establishment of the Senior Advocacy Commission. The Senior Advocacy Commission was created in early 2015. At that time, the City Council had been advertising for boards and commissions, and they got quite a large number of citizens who applied. I believe the council at the time wanted to be able to try to allocate or try to put every person who applied onto a board and commission. So the Senior Advocacy Commission was created. There were also, as some of you may know, a couple of, or 4 ad hoc committees that were also established at that time to be able to place people on. Some of those committees have gone away, and a couple of them have remained. So the Senior Advocacy Commission has struggled with meeting quorum. They really have struggled with what their purpose and mission is. They were established to advocate for the needs of senior citizens, and they report to the park board, which is kind of unusual. But there's also already a council at the senior center that is called the Share and Care Council, who are individuals who are on this committee who help work with the senior center director to recommend programming at the senior center and so forth. So there seemed to be overlap in the two missions of the two, and so staff had recommended at one time several months ago to repeal the Senior Advocacy Commission. That did not happen, but we're bringing this forward again. As my understanding that y'all had discussed this during the board commission interviews and was wanting to reconsider that. In reality, the Parks and Recreation Board has the responsibility of providing or recommending recreation programming for all citizens, whether they're senior citizens or youth or in between. So this advocacy commission was essentially, as I said, was established as a redundancy to the Parks Board and a redundancy to the Share and Care Council, but it was established to be able to give citizens an opportunity to serve, but we've had problems in keeping a quorum and being able to get anything done.
How active is that Share and Care Council?
I'm going to look at Noel.
Right
He just
here.
came in. There he is.
Sorry about that. Very active. They meet every second Monday of the month at 10 a.m. And we have a president, 2 vice presidents, a treasurer, a secretary, and 3 regular members that attend every second Monday of the month. And they advocate for programs, activities, services for seniors there, but also as advocates in the community to try to draw in more people to become members or offer opportunities for the center.
Thank you.
So, you go ahead. I was just getting some notes today so I'm not sure I understand this completely. But people that are on this board are not from Duncanville, they're all around. Is that true? I mean,
So the Share and Care Council is established through the Dallas Agency on Aging, DAAA Dallas Area Agency on Aging. It is a requirement to have a Share and Care Council because we have federally funded lunch program. And so this council has been around for many, many years. We couldn't even find out when it was first established, but it has been around for a long, long time. Through the bylaws and their requirements, any member of the senior center can be on the Share and Care Council. And our senior center is not restricted to Duncanville residents. So yes, there can be people on the Sharing Care Council who are not Duncanville residents, but they are members of the senior center.
So this doesn't have council oversight then? This-
No, it does not.
Not at all.
But it never has.
It never has.
Never has.
It really doesn't need to.
Doesn't need to be.
I don't need anything else to oversee.
Key operative, doesn't need to be. You know, they interface very strongly with Mr. Garcia. That's the activity we need for what, in terms of administration of the lunch program. And the fact that it's not only the lunch program, but they're looking for everything our seniors do. So it's to our advantage to just not have two pieces. The redundancy is shown that people didn't show up for that particular meeting anyway.
And in reality, I'll just add to, and in reality, if there is any kind of a policy issue that comes up from the senior center, we're going to vet it through the Parks and Recreation Board and before it comes to council anyway.
Okay.
Just to follow on to Monty's question, I saw the list of members. How many are not from Duncanville?
Everyone that I know that's on that list is from Duncanville,
Okay.
except with the exception possibly Teresa Cox.
Okay,
But I want to say that everybody that's currently a member is a resident of Duncanville.
okay.
And then would you share your thoughts, Dan, on the two different committees and how they work? I know we got numbers or whatever, but
Well, I think that the input that we get from the Sharing Care Site Council, because they are members and because they do attend regularly to the senior center on a daily basis, I think they see day-to-day operations and things that the seniors need or that the center needs, versus when the Advocacy Commission, they were members just of the community residents and not necessarily members of the center. So therefore, in trying to develop programs and activities and services for the seniors, not having that firsthand experience being there every day was a little challenging and difficult for those members to come up with ideals, services, programs that benefit the seniors firsthand because they weren't there on a day-to-day basis. These members that are part of the Sharing Care Site Council are there every day, so they're interacting and engaging with those seniors and looking for their needs and things that they'd like to see happen to be, you know, to have a health and robust program that promotes health and wellness for our seniors in the community.
so the two that was there, that I hear they've been appointed somewhere else, but they have not been instrumental in moving over to the Sharing Care Committee?
Possibly, 3 of them did move over, so you have Pat, Elaine, and Teresa, and I believe Kim Malone possibly joined another commission. And so the rest just resigned either because, not necessarily because of the commission or the city as a whole that they didn't feel, they didn't support it, but more because they just had other things going on in their lives. One was sharing that she had commitments with her son with baseball league and stuff like that, and she couldn't make it. So the other 3 or 4 that resigned just said they just didn't have the time to commit anymore.
So they're not making any policy, they're running it through the Parks Board, is what I just heard.
The Sharing Care, yes,
Okay.
that's correct. They're not making any policy.
All right, thank you.
Mayor and Council, those are all of the items on the consent agenda. If there are any items on the regular agenda that you have specific questions for staff, we'd be happy to answer those.
You want to answer those now or later? You want to answer those now?
Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna
thought we- I
brief
thought-
each of them, but if you have any specific questions on any of those items on individual consideration for staff, we will try to answer them.
What we have tried to do is items for individual consideration. If we have any discussion or debate, to do it actually in council versus here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we end up reiterating what went on in here out there. So if you have any concerns or questions or comments for whatever's on the individual consideration items, you can wait, or if you have something to.
Oh, wait, it's not much, but I'll wait.
Okay.
Is it a question for staff? Is staff can answer, or is it just?
More about the candidate. I see one, but I was wondering if it's more than one. But I got an email on that. I only saw one person.
So that person on the DCAD board, he is the person that is currently representing the cities that's on the board, and he's asked for reappointment. So he's the only one that we know of. But this is the nomination process. So if you have others that you wish to nominate, this is when the council tonight would vote and nominate someone if it's not this person. And then whoever gets nominations will be brought back at a later date for the council to actually vote on the appointments, whoever's nominated.
I received an email letter from a council member from DeSoto asking me to,
Oh, DeSoto or Lancaster?
is it Lancaster?
Oh, sorry, Lancaster.
Yeah, asking me to support her in candidacy, and I don't know the person, other than reading the background on who we have there now. I chose not to do anything with that letter that she sent me, so I'm looking to support our current member.
Yes, I still want to open it up. I mean, I do
Sure,
know her.
absolutely, yeah.
I definitely visited with her doing TML, and she's pretty active. So I wanted to at least consider a look at her background and everything.
Okay, moving on in with the agenda that we have.
Okay, wait a minute. On the consent agenda on C, I want to pull that.
You want that on individual consideration?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think we need to have some discussion on it. I would like, for,
Okay, we already had discussion on that prior to your arrival, but we can move it out there. That's fine.
have you had discussion on it?
Yes, we did.
Couldn't have been too long, so.
It was ample and adequate to everyone's satisfaction. But we can move it out there.
Do you have a specific question that you?
Oh, yeah. Where are you getting the material that, for the requirement of a committee?
The
I've
Sharon Care
researched, yeah.
Council? It comes from the DAAA.
No,
which is
show
a
it to me. I
requirement.
want it in writing. I want to see it.
It's in the package.
I didn't see it.
We sent out
Sent you
additional
electronic
information
packet.
today.
Oh, today you sent it.
Well, it's the same information that was previously sent to the council with that you were on 6 months ago.
Okay. I don't see how an outside entity can tell the city about a committee and that we don't interview, we interview every committee member. And the committees report to us, they don't report to staff.
This committee does not report to staff. It is a committee that was established by the Dallas Area Agency on Aging as part of the federally funded lunch program. And the requirements are that any member of the senior center can be a member of the Sharon Care Council. They are voted on by the members of the senior center. That committee has been in establishment for many, many years. We couldn't even find out when it was first established, but it has been there for a long, long time.
Okay, how do you put people on there?
They are voted on by the members of the senior center.
See, and you also discriminate.
That council does not set policy. They work with the senior center director to recommend programs or to activities for the
Did
senior
you say the
center.
council doesn't set policy?
I said, this Sharon Care Council, I'm sorry, the Sharon Care Council, the Sharon Care Committee, so I'll use the term committee. The committee does not set policy. They make recommendations, but it is no different than it was 5 years ago when there was no Senior Advocacy Commission. And any policy issues that would come up would still have to come through the park board and through the council for final approval. So
Okay,
they
they
don't
shouldn't
set
be
policy.
under the park board.
This council is not, but the Senior Advocacy Commission, when it was established 5 years ago, for whatever reason.
There we go,
wasn't-
5 years ago. That was not a long, long time ago.
The Senior Advocacy Commission, I'm talking about.
Yeah,
the
I knew
Sharon-
that was.
Not
The Sharon Care
DAAA.
Council has been around for a long, long time.
Right, but that would
We are
never.
recommending that to repeal the establishment of the Senior Advocacy Commission, the one that was established 5 years ago, because it is redundant to the Sharon Care Council and it is redundant to the mission of the Park Board. It serves really no purpose, but it was put in place at the time to allow citizens to serve on committees. At the time, there were also some other ad hoc committees established, as you know. Some of those are still in existence, some are not. So we do not see the need for having a senior.
Who's we?
Staff recommended this several months ago, but also the members of the Senior Advocacy Commission also did not see the need for it to continue.
Okay, I talked to them. I've talked to them, they've called me. They've been very unhappy for a while because, first of all, they should never have been set up to report to another committee. No committee reports to another committee. And there were different issues, like when they remodeled the Senior Citizen Center, they felt like they should have been, that should have been their thing under them. It wasn't. Bart told them who was going to do it and cut them out. And they felt like most of the decisions were taken away from them.
I don't know really what you're talking about as far as the Senior Advocacy Commission, because several of the members of the Senior Advocacy Commission are now part of the Share and Care Council. So I'm not sure where you're getting your information from, but I believe that the members of the Senior Center have been consulting and have been working with the director and through the Share and Care Council. And it is completely up to y'all to
Yes,
decide
and
what
it
you
may be a
want to do.
surprise to you, but these people also call the council that are on it, and when they're unhappy and things that are going on.
Well, we'll move this out to council and we'll have discussion about that. Okay.
Well, I didn't see anywhere in here that we set up a committee that they have food, they're over food.
There's also a few sentences in there about social activities and other entertainment issues. So they assist Mr. Garcia in activities for our seniors, not just the overall program.
The lunch program is federally funded.
I
So That's a
understand that.
federally funded
I understand.
But
program.
in their bylaws, it has some sentences about they do assist in creating activities and entertainment for our seniors. So they have activity that was redundant with what we had in terms of a senior advocacy commission.
Well, the way the other one was set up and the way they were treated was wrong. It was wrong. They should never have reported to another committee. We have no committees that report to committees.
That was done before I was here. I cannot comment on
I
what the
know
reasons
fully
for
well.
it was, but it was done that way, and that was the way the resolution was approved by the council.
And the fact that all the other committees, we interview the people on the boards, and we don't interview these. They just get on by citizens. You can have people who don't live in the city, and that they have to be over 50 years old. We had people on our committee that were not 50 years old or up, and they were very good committee members. That's discriminatory. And if they want to do it, you know, that's one thing, but I don't know why we would as a city council.
Isn't part of the requirement to be on that site-based council that you have to be a member of the?
You have to be a member of the senior center.
So,
Membership in the senior center does not require residency within the city. And as
But
I
if
asked
you-
Mr. Garcia before, that of the individuals on the DAAA, only one individual is non-admitted as a citizen.
I understand that. I doubt that you will find any city that allows people on their committees that don't live in the city. In fact, most cities require that their staff lives there.
We
I
will discuss
doubt
this
that says
further
that.
on.
Dallas does?
That's a
Well, I know it is for you
Red
because
Sea
you
is
are
Issue, but that is
you
not
work in
correct.
Seagoville.
That's not a true
Okay.
statement.
So,
It is
no.
a true statement. I
I
don't
understand.
I've
appreciate
been in
you.
other cities.
Well, so have I, and I know about other cities too.
Okay, we will take this discussion on this particular item as it's on the agenda out into city council as you wish. And we'll take it to a vote out there. Okay. Okay, moving on to our city council retreat planning and city council calendar. There are two individuals that I'm not familiar with, you two gentlemen. Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Myself?
Yes.
Jace Owsley.
I'm sorry?
Jace Owsley.
And you're with?
I'm actually just here for representing the property owner and one of the items.
Which one?
Item B, the 134 North Main Street.
Okay.
I'm John McLean. I'm the graduate engineer here.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is to talk about our retreat. Dr. Mike Mowry is here. And just to give you a little background, that there were three of us on the committee, I almost hate using the word now, on the committee to select our facilitator for our retreat. That was myself, Mr. Henry, and Mr. Cooks. And we interviewed 4 facilitators in this process, and we have chosen Mike Mowry as our facilitator for our retreat. I had never met him before, so I asked if he could come in and have some face-to-face before we actually go to the retreat. So Mike is here. We appreciate your coming, and I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The agenda, as you set it out, we had some discussion about this after your interview.
Right.
That it's a very linear agenda time. How do you accommodate flexibility? Because, you know, we're looking at it, us guys going like, okay, it's 11 o'clock, shut down, we're moving on to number 7.
Well, there's a lot of things that probably go into it, Mayor, but you're trying to read the room and make sure everybody has had enough opportunity to give input. But also, I often say, I've always got the time ticking in the back of my mind so that you as a council don't have to worry about that. So you can really engage in discussion and know that I'm going to keep us moving towards that goal line of we want to have a great strategic vision coming out of there with mile markers that really give staff definition of what you need. And so by me being sort of time conscious, you don't have to be.
So you're going to develop your topics for the agenda based on your interviews with us on council, is that correct?
Right, and along with, you know, the effort to say, where do you want to go in the future? Strategic vision is all about the future. Where do you want to go? What do you want to become as a city? So we'll lead you through a number of exercises that examine that from different angles and capture what you've said, so that then as you kind of move, it's sort of like a funnel, starts off really big and gets more narrow as we move towards what's the real common vision. But your input when we have these interviews really is crucial in terms of, you know, what we look at and what's important to you.
So that the compilation of the information that we give you in those personal interviews is documented in what way?
I'll take notes on it. We don't present it in a way that says the mayor said this, or Patrick said this, or Mark said this, because we don't want to create a fuss at the beginning. But we want you to be able to see this is the range of responses that your council gave on these issues, and find from that what are the common themes, what are the things that come up over and over, what are the outliers, so that, you know, maybe there's something there that maybe only 1 or 2 people felt or saw, but it ought to be considered, because you don't always have the chance to do that, you know, because of open meetings laws. And the council retreat gives you opportunity to do that.
So then it's incumbent upon us as council members to start thinking about what we want 5 to 10 years from now.
That's right, and part of the interview time that we'll have next week is designed to get you thinking along those lines, and probably make an assignment to read something or view something in advance of the
You're
retreat.
going to give us homework?
Yes, sir, probably so. What I found in doing a lot of these is if you don't stimulate me to think about it, then we sort of all, you know, fall back to what's going on right now. And right now is important, but part of a strategic vision retreat is a thing of the future.
I understand you've had some dealings with this city in the past.
That's right. I think we decided, I think it was 2014, and did the council retreat at, I forgot the city.
It's okay.
Yeah, anyway, 2-day retreat, really set forward some, you know, that council created some really good, I think, strategic pillars that I think you've been working for. And that's been a good guideline. And yet, there comes a time, you know, vision is always expiring because it's about the future and you're moving into the future. So there comes a time for a new council to look at it and say, well, that was good, but what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? I think that's the purpose of the meeting in a couple of weeks.
What homework do you do to get familiar with the city and the state?
Well, I'll be spending a lot of time on your website and news articles about your city, and just, you know, I'm familiar with you as it is a little bit because I live here in the Metroplex. And my interviews with you are real crucial for me, finding out what's really important to you, what really matters.
Council, have any questions for Mike? Comments?
So Dr. Mike, when you listen to everything we have to say, you're going to take that information Is that the first time we will hear the subject topic will be at the retreat, or would you get it back to us so we'll know the direction we're going in?
No, I'll work with you, with the city, with the city manager and the mayor and anybody else in the council who wants to, have input on it, on developing the agenda, so that you know, okay, this is what we're talking about. I don't like to pull surprises on you at all.
I think we told you during the interview, we don't like games.
Yeah, I can
No,
sympathize with that.
I'm sorry, correct that. I told you the mayor didn't like that.
You had some input too, of course.
Yeah, my experience is nobody likes games like that, and so we don't do those. We're some places make you stand on a table and fall backwards and hope somebody catches you. We don't do that. But what you'll discover is that when you're talking with each other, you'll find common ground, and you'll also feel that you sort of come closer together, able to work together as a team better, just because you're talking. And I always say, you won't accomplish 100% of what you talk about, but you'll accomplish exactly 0% of what you don't talk about. So you guys talking to each other and having really frank discussions in that retreat, that's really the essence of it.
So you've been doing this for a number of years now.
I've been working with SJR for 8 years doing this. I do about 25 city council retreats a year, just like this one.
So how do you gauge success?
I gauge success at the end of the day if you as a council can look at that and say, yeah, that really is, those really are the crucial pillars for the future that we want. And if the group feels that, and staff feels like it's been given enough definition, that they know, okay, yeah, we can work on this, and I think that's a success. Is that part. The next part, though, is can you accomplish it? Can you start working? My experience is you need a long walk in the same direction. So some of the cities we've worked with repeatedly bring us back, regularly, and we do checkups. You don't always reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And seeing the progress that they've made, that's really where you really measure success, is do you get it accomplished? You can dream it, but then together, council and staff, you've got to execute it. And if we give you a plan that's so esoteric that you can't accomplish it, that's a failure on our part.
Are you in the business of evaluating the tactics to actually attain achievement?
That kind of moves to another level, and SGR does that, but we typically will use a different facilitator for that than me, and that's if the city wants us to use it. We really distinguish between a strategic vision and a strategic plan, even though we use those terms interchangeably. A strategic vision is about where you want to go. A strategic plan is about how you get there.
The tactics.
That's right. It's the council's responsibility to create the plan, the vision. Where do you want to go? And it's primarily the staff's responsibility to create the strategic plan that's in alignment with that about how you get there. And my experience is most of the time staff is very qualified to do that. So they don't often call on us to help. But if they want us to, we certainly provide that service. And that's not usually what I do. That's other people that we have on our team that will help provide that service, but we can.
Okay. Any further input for Dr. Mike? Questions, comments? And from what I understand, you're going to stay through council?
I'm going to stay until the council meeting starts.
Oh, until the council meeting, okay. All right, okay, good enough.
And I did pass around a sign-up sheet for the interview times with Dr. Mike, so if y'all would sign on that and then leave that here for Kristen or I. Appreciate it.
I think we probably owe the rest of the council to give them Dr. Mike's resume, since we had opportunity to go through it. Maybe the other council may want that resume as well.
It's in the package.
Okay, all right.
Okay, what I brought is actually in the item. Okay.
Look forward to working with you.
Okay. If there's nothing else for Dr. Mike, we can move on to the city council calendar.
Mayor and Council gave you a calendar. The one thing that we did want to discuss with you tonight. We would like to get some input. We would like to have a little bit of time with you and our consultants, Duncanville and Associates, to be able to discuss with you some of the bike lane study options that they are coming up with, to where we get your guidance and input back so we know which way to move forward. Greg, how long do we think that would take? About an hour and a half?
Yes, sir.
About an hour and a half. Since you canceled the October 1st meeting because of the National Night Out, we didn't want to do that, but we were looking at either September 24th, 25th, or 26th, or Monday, September 30th, or Thursday, October 3rd as possible dates. And we could schedule that, whatever is convenient for you, 6 o'clock or whenever to do that, or earlier if you want. We're just looking for about an hour and a half to be able to go through
those dates again.
They're available September 24th, 25th, or 26th, September 30th, or October 3rd.
September 6th doesn't look so good for me. 25th for me, it'd have to be in the morning. 24th is okay though.
Is okay for the evening?
If you want to do the evening. National Night Out, I think starts at 5 or 6 o'clock, Chief. What do you?
It's 5:30.
5:30. Okay. So National Night Out starts at 5:30. So I didn't know. I mean, unless
Well, I
I
said
would want to do.
24th though.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you wanted to consider October 1st to do it beforehand, but I wasn't gonna. It's up to you.
Any of those dates, except the 25th, works for me.
24th is good for me. Any other conflicts?
I'm looking for, you said 24th?
24th? You said evening time?
I mean, I can do other times too, but
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure Mr. Harvey cooks probably would, Sheriff cooks probably would as well.
I'm fine with
24th? What time? 6, 6:30, 7?
24th. You think an hour?
6
6.
or earlier. 6. That'll give you all enough
Well,
time.
6 is.
6 good. 24th, 6. And this is bike lane consultant. That's Dunaway, is that their name?
Yes.
Dunaway.
Dunaway.
Okay.
Okay. Tuesday, September 24th, 6 p.m.
Right.
And we will make sure we get that out. Thank you. That's really the only thing that I have.
Okay. All right, well, we're done with our briefing and work session.
Did we ever set up a time to do our rules of procedure?
No, we haven't.
Well, we need to do that.
Looking for a special meeting to do that. Because I don't imagine it's gonna,
I would imagine it would take an hour or two.
yeah, so I'm saying it's gonna take a special meeting to go through that.
The second day of the retreat, that half day, we typically is used for discussion, 1 hour or so discussion on different topics if you wanted to put it on there.
Well, I would prefer to have it at a different time, so that it was specifically about the rules of procedure, and not.
You imagine going through like line by line or paragraph by
Well,
paragraph?
no, we can all go
or-
through it and see if there was anything that we want to change or whatever.
So is the second day of the retreat okay, or prefer to
I
have
would
a separate?
prefer to have it at a different time.
Okay. How does October 3rd look for everybody?
I'm not available October 3rd. I'm not
So
available
good for
October.
October. I've got to fill out my calendar. Not the 4th, not the 2nd. 7th, October 7th?
3rd through the 7th, I'm not available.
I'm not available on the 7th.
Okay. 8th, 9th, and 10th is TML. And 11th. So let's see. What are we up to? 14th? Is Columbus Day a federal holiday now?
I believe so.
It's a banking holiday.
Yes.
So it's, okay.
So when's Columbus Day?
14th of October.
Yeah, I'm closed, I think.
Kind of pushes us to the last week in October. This is Sister City supposed to be in here. Let's see, 28th, 29th, I'm not in town. I've got meetings. 30th, October 30th.
So Wednesday, I'm trying not to have meetings on Wednesday.
Oh, that's right, we're going to the evening, sorry. 31st, unless you're planning on going trick or treating. You are. Yeah, that's my wife's birthday, too. I better set aside your time for her, I think. Do that. Okay, so where are we now? Friday, the 1st of November.
Friday. No, I won't pass on Friday.
You're not good? No Fridays?
I really, it's football season, I really go to the game, sorry.
I'll see you there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the hour meeting for the bike lanes, if it's an hour on the 24th, you want to do that while we're already here on the 24th? So it's an hour just for the,
Well, Greg said it's gonna be an hour and a half.
Hour.
Hour and a half, depending on the discussion. Again, what we're looking for is, the engineer is gonna brief you sort of on his methodology and the alternatives that he sees, but then he wants to make sure he gets your feedback on the alternatives, so he knows how to, where you wanna go, so we can, focus some studies on that aspect.
So that's pushing into 7:30 quarter to 8, which means we need an hour to go through this. We're pushing, getting out around 9:30 probably. Does that work for everybody?
Works. I'll go.
All right, so we'll add somewhere around 7:45, 8 o'clock, I guess we'll start that. So between now and then, it's our responsibility to go through all that and prepare some comments or maybe even share them. Can we do that?
You can share with each other, but you can go through it yourself and make comments or notes, and then when you come together in the meeting, you can discuss those, and we'll send out the rules of procedure to everyone.
Okay. All right, so 24th, 6 to 7:30, and roughly around 8 o'clock, we'll do the rules of procedure. So please do a little homework, see what kind of comments you'd like to make on that. We can't, just thinking, like Microsoft SharePoint, if we go through the rules of procedure, we make edits and changes, and we can't input that, right?
No, you can't do it on SharePoint because then you're basically sharing your comments.
I know.
And changes with everyone else, and so that is.
That's what I'm saying. So we're not gonna know what each other's comments are, so we aren't gonna get here.
Right, that's right.
And I think from past, I don't think it'll be wrapped up in one meeting, because once you take those changes, you're gonna bring them back.
Right, it'd be bring it back at a later time
Yeah.
for approval.
Yeah, so this would be the initial
Yeah.
for comments, maybe not words. I'd suggest that we don't do wordsmithing yet, but comments, inputs, things that we probably need to look at in depth. Okay. All right. Oh, talking about a calendar. Is there a we were talking about having a joint meeting with council, P&Z, and EDC. Is there any possibility of that? I know we're in the fall, and calendars are getting pretty tight pretty quickly.
Yeah, but I think based on, your, the meeting that you did have, the information, the presentation that you got from Verdunity, I would recommend bringing them in and having a joint meeting with the three of you to hear that presentation and have
Do
some
a work,
discussion.
you're gonna do more, maybe more than just a presentation, but kind of a workshop with it.
We could do a workshop, and I've talked to him about the cost of that. And to do the full analysis is more expensive, but to do a workshop, I think we could probably do that.
Well, I'd look at, what he presented was exceptional information. Just if we could facilitate communication among the council, P&Z, and the EDC, I think it'd be excellent to be
I
able to
think
do
you
that.
could do a half a day or 3-hour workshop that with all of them would be really good, and I think you should have the parks
Yeah.
too, because they're a huge part of the visitor and economic development themselves.
I agree.
So we're looking at a pretty good sized meeting. I guess it's gonna have to be held on senior center, pull all this together.
Probably, and I would say that's probably something then that we would want to look at doing, maybe possibly November, but, timing, you probably not want to push it out. But I think this would be something, too, is my thought was is maybe something you come out of your retreat with as far as an objective, that hey, this falls within your vision, your goal. And I don't want to step on Dr. Mike's toes or anything, but I kind of thought this would probably be something y'all would discuss as well there as part of your retreat discussion. And then we come out of that with a.
How about checking with him and see what his calendar looks like, to give us 3 hours or so?
I think it'd be a half day. Half a day.
Half a day.
And the presentation we heard together,
Pardon?
the presentation we heard last time for the whole group.
It would be that and the workshop, and then it would be more than just the presentation.
Yeah, okay.
Also to add to the calendar, I'd like us to consider having another meeting with EDC as well, just the council and the EDC, whether it's this month or next month.
I think January would be, you've been trying to do it at 6 months intervals.
Yeah, I think-
January would be the next one.
No, I think we need one sooner than that. Maybe we need to talk with them.
Is it possible to have an executive session between council and EDC?
Depends on the topic.
Real estate?
You have to be specific if you're going to talk about real estate.
If it's acquisition or sale of real estate, yes, you could, and there is, yes, I think we could, based on what I believe there's time we can follow that.
Okay.
I think we need to do that too,
Yeah, I think we did.
do that in executive session.
And sooner than later.
Yes.
One more suggestion on the
Excuse me, can we talk about a date real quick? Are we looking for a date?
What you got, Mark? No Fridays.
No, right, no, right. I'll give it the game now.
No Fridays,
As long
no
as it's a weak
Wednesdays.
team.
We actually, if you do that, because there's so many of us involved, we need to put out like three or four different days and see which have can be accommodated. We can't just slap one date on there because there's too many people involved.
Did we already rule out October 8th? I thought I heard somebody say no, October 8th.
I can't do the 8th.
Patrick, your birthday is when?
October 8th.
Oh, man, I was talking about, oh, so my birthday, there's a surprise birthday party.
The next EDC meeting is Monday, September 23rd, so we know that they'll be available then, if y'all.
Oh, okay. I'm fine for that.
That works. They can have, we would do executive session first.
What is it, November
No,
23rd?
October 23rd.
September.
September
23rd. Yeah, their next regularly scheduled meeting is September 23rd.
Okay, Jessica's talking in my ear too. If you want to move it up earlier than that, we can now find out if they're available.
No, I think
So they're, well, based on what I think you're talking about, I think we might want to have that conversation soon.
Okay. That's the case, I'm more than welcome to move it up.
See if how it looks for the 9th, 16th, or 23rd.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with the 9th, 16th, and 23rd? Just to make
September?
sure. September, yeah, take a look. They're all Mondays.
6
Mayor,
o'clock.
on the 9th, we have that meeting.
Oh, can't do the 9th.
Yeah,
Can't
that
do
park,
the 9th.
like park meeting.
Uh,
We need to put that on the calendar as well.
16th is okay.
I can't do 16th.
You can't do the 16th. 23rd is okay. So we're on the 23rd. Patrick, you're good?
23rd?
23rd.
In the evening?
Yeah, because what time do they start? 6 o'clock? Okay.
The
Do we
23rd?
need to go over there?
No, it's fine. 23rd will work.
Okay, 23rd, what time is sufficient? We're gonna do 6.
Do 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
Can we consider adding to our calendar, if you're, we're finished with that subject?
So,
Can we consider adding to our calendar events we have throughout the city where we'll know what's going on? I missed somehow the meeting of the park board in the parks, and so. these
It
are
hadn't come up yet.
Well, I saw it on social media already.
It's next week.
I know, but I'm saying, should it not be on these calendars? It's information for
We didn't
us.
have those dates, so I don't know if they just set it or what, but we didn't have those dates.
Well, what my recommendation then was to be, as we have dates that we can put on here for activities, whether we want to show up or not show up, it should be here on the calendar for us as well. I saw another event on social media for us, again, surprising. It was something about having, and it might be an outside event, I don't know, just read it on social media. It said we're hosting, or somebody's hosting a restaurant owners event, taste of a restaurant owners event at the recreation center. That's a great opportunity for EDC or somebody to talk to see if they want to build a restaurant here in Duncanville.
I don't, whose social media did you see that on?
That's so, it's social media period. I mean, I signed up to yes out of 10.
Who, is that the city?
It wasn't on the cities. I saw it too, but it wasn't by the city.
What's on the city?
I'm very cautious about trying to promote other businesses because then, that's not.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about promoting. I'm just saying to us that we want to consider if it's something of that sort.
But for us to try to keep track of all that is, there's no way we can keep track of all that. And then what'll happen is we put someone's stuff on there, and someone else gets mad because we didn't catch their stuff.
Okay.
I think it needs to just be city related and only.
And put the city stuff on our post then. Be great. You put the city information on here, whether it's parks.
We're trying to put as much on there as we can.
I hear you, Kevin, but I'm saying we don't have anything at all now. So when you say as much as we, no, we don't have anything when it comes to what's going on in the city. Matter of fact, let me ask you, do we have all of the things that the library promotes on our calendars? No, we did not. So all I'm saying is, in order for us to come together, we should support those things that's happening in our city, whether it's the park board, whether it's EDC, whoever's having something in the city. Placed on the calendar whether we attend or not. We like to attend those things, or I do. I like to know about them. I like to get a call saying, you guys have this in your city, and the city's promoting it, and we know nothing about it.
We'll make sure that the library newsletter gets sent out to you.
Kevin, I'm saying calendar, sir.
Well, Councilmember Coons, I'm just gonna say that, you know, all these things that you want do take staff time. And so we have one PIO, we have one city secretary, so I mean, it's hard for us to assimilate all of this, to put all of this in one place at one time when different departments are sending out information.
What that'll appear to be is that in the right hand, don't know what the left hand's doing. And that's what I want to make sure we don't have. So it's nothing about trying to put more work on it, it's just making sure we're properly communicating amongst ourselves, where we can go support it and look as one. My whole thought is for us looking as one.
Is it specifically the library that you have concern
The
about?
library or any events that we're hosting. No, we had the police department part. I guess it was on here.
It was on there.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
So those types of things need to be here, or we can see them as well. Kristen does a great job. Kristen does a great job sending it back out to us to kind of keep us in line. But this calendar will help us out as well if we're going to use a calendar for information.
Does the library have a website that lists all their events?
They have their events on the website and they send out a newsletter, but I mean, they do a lot of different programs. I mean,
He's got
and so
some
what'll
going on.
happen is you'll have so much stuff on here, you won't even see it then. And then, I mean, they do a lot of programming. Parks does a lot of programming. So we're putting different events in the weekly update that goes out, but the things that I think would be of interest, but I can't think of what everything that might be of interest to you to get on here. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think it's just, I'm just saying that we'll do our best, but I think it's difficult to assimilate everything that's going on and put it in one calendar for you that will have everything on there that you might have an interest in.
Okay, I'll consider to be very open and give you more information as I see things that we should be one is about. It's really about being one.
Okay. It is 6:54. We will call to order City Council at 7 o'clock. The time is 7:04, calling to order the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. Welcome to everyone. First on our agenda for tonight is the invocation, and it would be by Reverend Ginger Herzenstein from the First Presbyterian Church of Duncanville. Please stand.
Mayor Gordon, council members, leaders, citizens, please bow with me in prayer. God, we gather together tonight to do the city's work. In a moment, we will pledge allegiance to our state and to our United States. Both pledges include the word indivisible. Only a group can be indivisible. Together, we as citizens are responsible for living out this pledge. No one carries either of these pledges alone, nor is one person able to tear apart a shared loyalty. God, these pledges enlist you as the overseer of our oath. How are we, both leaders and residents, doing in our shared charge to be unified? For all of us freely embrace these pledges, Lord. Forgetting those out there in our nation who are presently mired in division, we do have self-rule here in Duncanville. We can determine to heed the pledge's call. We gladly have a vested interest in our city. While we might tremble before you when asking you to assess our behavior, we also know that you lead us in a very present way, that you are a source of help and encouragement and direction should we seek it. Would you, therefore, God, provide us fresh vision for the good of Duncanville? As each citizen speaks, as proposals are made and leadership sets policy, would you give all of us new dreams, seen through the lens of good neighboring, for economic viability, for inclusiveness and mentoring of our youth. We desire these things. So let us come together tonight to listen and respect the gifts that each leader brings, because we can choose to do so together, indivisible, with liberty, justice, and a hopeful future in mind. As a minister of good news, I pray in my Lord's name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledges to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, a couple items that I'd like to report on for the mayor's report. I want to thank the police department for a wonderful event Saturday. It was Saturday. Was it? No, it was Friday. What? It was Saturday. Okay, it was, yeah. I was right the first time. What's today? Anyway. Okay. So the event was extremely well organized and well put on. The interesting thing was that there were many people that were interested to come and see I'll call it the paraphernalia of our law enforcement. The weapons and the gear that they use was extremely beneficial and important to all. And it was a great event. And having the In-N-Out burger truck there, they brought 500 hamburgers and they were gone. So there's at least 500 people that showed up. We don't know exactly how many. But from what we understand, that was the first annual, right, Chief? Yes. So next year is the second annual. Okay. During that event as well, Methodist Charlton Medical Center brought a whole team of medical people, nurses, physicians, pharmacists to be there with a table for support and understanding of the International Overdose Awareness Day. And I reread the proclamation that we read here in council, and it was very well received and understood. So we want to thank the partnership between Methodist Charlton Medical Center and the city of Duncanville. And commenting on the banquet, fire department banquet, Chief Chase almost did a good job. No, he did an admirable. If we don't pick on you, who do we pick on? I just don't know. But did an admirable job, and it was really nice. And one of the comments that I made to Chief Ryan afterwards, the department made special recognition of our emergency medical technicians in terms of saving lives and what they do. And one of the common threads that I heard in those discussions, or him describing the heroic actions of our people, is that they never give up. They attended to people that were straight-lined. They attended to people that had no pulse. They attended to people that had no respiration. But our folks never give up. They administer what they need to, and they never give up on somebody that calls for help. And we have a wonderful, superb group of EMTs, and I want to congratulate them and commend them publicly for what they do for us. One other quick item, that the mayor's coffee for September 18th from 8 to 9 in the morning. Anybody who'd like to show up and just sit down and have a chat, you're welcome to do that. It's going to be over at the Senior Center. Okay, council members' reports. Mr. Cooks.
Yeah, good evening to all. We'll just want to make a couple of announcements. One, looks like September the 9th, there's a park board meeting. Our park board is hosting a meeting for our park at Pyburn Park. And so I want to invite all who live in the area of Pyburn Park to come and give your support and information to our park board, who will be meeting there on September the 9th, Monday night. So I encourage you to come out. I see signs out already, so it'll be great to attend. The second item I want to share is to encourage others. On the 4th Thursday of this month, we will have mayor's having coffee in the morning, and then on the 26th, he's having dinner in the afternoon. So, Mr. Gordon, you don't have to fix dinner that evening. You can just come in Luby's, and I'm buying your lunch. We'll let Barry be on his own, but I'll encourage others to come out and have dinner with the mayor and conversation with the mayor on September 26th at 6:30. I said Luby's, I'm sorry. It is at Papados. Papados have graciously given us a room where people can come in and order off the lunch menu and hear the mayor's one-on-one, where you can talk with them one-on-one versus and have dinner at the same time. So I'll encourage District 4 and any others to come do that. And then while we're there, we are still shopping Duncanville. And I'll ask if you would, shop Duncanville is so important to each one of us. I know that when you think about places that you already shop, and if you think about that same establishment having here in Duncanville, we'll encourage you to change up some of your spots that you're shopping outside of Duncanville and shop inside of Duncanville, whether it's getting your gas in the morning before you leave for work, or whether it's going to a local grocery store here in Duncanville. The more we shop Duncanville in our own city, the more we also give developers and others the insight that we are supporting those companies within us. Am I saying we shop everything in Duncanville? Where we might not have some things, but at the same time, the things that we do have, I'm asking you to shop Duncanville, and it'll make our city strong and better each time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any others? Oh, Ms. Jameson.
Yes, I would like to tell those of you who attended the town hall meeting on the trash contract, thank you for coming out, sharing your opinions, and it was very insightful. And don't give up. You do have a voice, and your council people should be listening. So continue to render your feedback. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, city manager's report, Mr. Hugman.
Thank you, Mayor. To follow on with Councilmember Cook's note about the park board meeting, the park board is scheduling neighborhood parks meetings at the various neighborhood parks to get input from all of the citizens that surround those neighborhood parks. So in September, they have also scheduled Quail Run Park on Monday, September 16th, Waterview Park on Monday, September 23rd, and Chris Paris Park on Monday, September 30th. And they're working on scheduling the other ones, and we'll get all of this information out on our social media and website. So just wanted to let you know that. So if you live near any of those parks, please come out, meet with the park board, and provide input on what you would like to see in the future in those parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, proclamations and presentations, recognition of Keep Duncan Beautiful Fall 2019 Curb Appeal Residential Properties. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce this item. My Keep Duncanville Beautiful members are very dedicated in canvassing the neighborhoods around our city and selecting these homes that you will see. The first one we'd like to recognize is in District 1, Paul and Jenny Zeiss at 707 North Casa Grande Circle. And at the end, we'll ask, we do actually have some that are present as well that we'll ask to come down to the front to get a photo opportunity as well. I'm sorry? That's a very beautiful property. Indeed. District 2, Roy and Gail Clemens at 206 Cardinal Creek Drive. District 3 is Mary Sanders at 702 Eisenhower Drive. District 4 is Deborah Cantwell at 1607 Sparta Drive. And then finally in District 5, we have Ernest and Gabrielle Harden at 1210 Rita Lane. And so we thank each one of these properties who are a shining light in their district and are a great example of citizens taking pride in their property, and also I'm sure it's spurring on their neighbors to do likewise. So today we have Mr. Paul Zeiss here from the District 1 property, and we also have Mrs. Gail Clemens. If you all would come down, we'd like to get a picture with you all, if you would, please. And Bobby, if you will come down too, please. Bobby Cutler Hill is on our Keep Duncanville Beautiful board and instrumental in helping with identifying these properties. So, can you get a photo? Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
On behalf of City Council, thank you for our residents for taking wonderful care of your properties. Happen to know that when people are looking to relocate to the city, they do drive around and they take a look at how we as a citizenry take care of our properties and how much pride we take in what we do here. So thank you very much for what you do to your personal property. Moving on to item number 3, citizens input. I'm going to read this very carefully on the agenda item because there has been a change in the law that went into effect on the 1st of September. And as a result of that law going into effect on the 1st of September, it does affect the manner in which public comment is taken. So just so there's no question in terms of how I read this in the record, and I may ask our city attorney for some guidance and input as we go along on this. Pursuant to section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address the City Council concerning any matter of public business or any posted agenda item. However, the Act prohibits City Council from deliberating any issues not on the public agenda, and such non-agenda items may be referred to city staff for research and any future action. All persons addressing are subject to the council adopted rules and limitations permitted by law. To address the council, please submit a fully completed request card to the city secretary prior to the beginning of the citizens input portion of the meeting. The law that went into effect on the 1st of September changed the manner in which you, the public, are permitted to address the council. And I'll try and sum it up in as brief a point as possible and not to get too complicated in the law. But our prior practice was that in order to address the council for your 2-minute public comment, you needed to submit a card prior to the meeting so that we know what you want to speak about, and we are able to recognize you as well. The new law permits public comment on any item on the agenda as it's being discussed, and not necessarily, you do not have to submit a card in advance. So a recognition of individuals willing to speak, or I'm sorry, not willing to speak, but desiring to speak on a particular agenda item, simply raise your hand and you'll be recognized and you'll be permitted to speak. The 2-minute comment still remains in effect in terms of the 2-minute time limit, unless we go into public hearing, and we have some public hearing items on the agenda tonight. So public hearing comments are not limited to 2 minutes, but comments other than those on the agenda are not. So looking at the 2 cards, I have 3 cards here tonight, and 2 of these 3 concern item 5B, which is a public hearing and consider an ordinance on 134 North Main Street. So in order to keep this in order, what I'm going to do is call these individuals forward when we get to item 5B, rather than just having 2 minutes at the prior time, if that's acceptable.
That is, basically what the law allows is if they want to speak now during comment period, or they can wait until the item is actually brought up. They can't speak at both times, but they can elect either now or at the time the item is called.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Israel and Monique Mraz, did I say that right?
Munoz.
What? Okay. Do you wish to speak now or wait until it comes up on the agenda?
Wait till the agenda.
Okay, and is it Jace Ousley?
Yes, same.
Did I say that correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Okay. City Attorney, is there anything that you need to elaborate on to make more clarification, or everything's okay?
I think that's good. You can just, if you want to ask anybody else in the audience if they wish to speak on any agenda item at this time, give them that opportunity. If none, then we can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay. And in consonance with what our City Attorney said, is there anybody that wishes to address an item on the agenda? Or you can wait till we get to that agenda item and be recognized as well. Yes.
Am I allowed to address, without filling out a card, just a general comment? It's not on the agenda.
Yes, you can. You'll just need to come up here and state your name and your address.
Yes.
And you would be limited to the 2 minutes.
Yes. Patricia Ebert, 115 South Greenstone, Duncanville. I read that new law also, and so I want to tell you how I read the law. And I want to be corrected if I misread something. The way I understood it is not only does it change as what I've heard right now, it's that also for public board meetings, city board meetings, that they're now required to have public discussions toward the beginning of the meetings. If that is a true statement, I think that that's just a golden opportunity for the council to work with the city manager to look at across the board the agendas for our cities, for our city boards that we have. And this is not a blame game for anybody. The city staff liaison, it looks like we're just given the templates, and the templates are not necessarily consistent, because in a quick review of the minute meetings, in the meeting agendas, some of them don't even have public discussion, and some of them have it toward the middle, and it's consistently toward the middle of their agendas. And so if I am interpreting that correctly, I just see this as a great opportunity to standardize the agendas. And the people who are serving on these boards serve tirelessly and selflessly. They're just working with the agendas that are given to them. So no blame game. It's just a way to start, to reset, and to get everything synchronized. And I think it's wonderful that all the boards will now allow public discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a card here from Gail Slager, please. And please state your name and address.
Gail Slager, 1405 South Main Street, Duncanville, Texas. Mayor, City Council, City Manager. I come tonight to express extreme disappointment in this council's recent actions. There was a special call meeting held on Friday, August the 23rd, 2019, from 4 to 8 p.m. This was only 3 days after our regularly called, scheduled council meeting. It was held not in our city, but at the Executive Airport's Conference Center in Dallas, Texas. I happened to pick up this posted meeting on the city's website on that same Friday morning. Then I discovered that our city manager and staff were asked not to be in attendance. This is in direct violation of our city charter, page 11, Article 3, Section 203, Item 6. This meeting was not mentioned at the Tuesday council meeting. Therefore, it appeared to me, though it may not have been intended, that there was something to hide from the citizens of Duncanville. Upon discovering this meeting, I called my councilman and the 2 other representatives for whom I can vote, the mayor and the city councilman at large, and ask them to be sure that they were not in violation of the charter, as there would be ethics complaints filed. I was happy when I arrived at this meeting to see our city manager. May I continue, Mayor?
Yes.
Assistant city manager, economic development director, and her assistant at this meeting. The presentations about cities and their development was very informative and well-presented program. I sincerely believe that more of our staff and other citizens would have benefited from this information. The agenda also included discussions of interpersonal relationships between council members, and then the council's relationship with staff, without staff. I found little problem with this meeting's content. The problem was the manner in which this special council meeting was called. It was, to say the least, very distasteful to me, and I'm sure to other members of the city. I trust that this will not be happening again in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, the consent agenda. As a matter of information, item 4C is being moved from consent agenda to items for individual consideration. And seeing as that we have 2 public hearings, items 5A and 5B, we will take item 4C after the 2 public hearings of 5A and 5B. Item 5A, individual items for individual consideration. Conduct the second public hearing on the 2019 proposed tax rate.
We have the consent agenda first.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Chair will receive a motion to approve the consent agenda. Oh, you got to read them. Go ahead.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the August 6th City Council regular meeting and the August 8th budget workshop meeting. Item 4B, consider a resolution approving the application for and acceptance of the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program funding to be administered by the City of Dallas in the amount of $8,653.09 and approve the purchase of electronic citation printers conservative with the award amount. Sorry.
Chair will accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Thank you. Okay, item 5A, consider the second public hearing on the 2019 proposed tax rate. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So what I wanted to do is go through our effective current rate and our rollback rate real quickly. Our effective tax rate has been calculated at 0.686452 per $100 of valuation. And our rollback rate is 0.751442 per $100 of valuation. And that rollback rate is simply at 8% above the effective rate. There are many calculations that are made in that, but simply put, it's approximately 8%. And next year with the property tax cap, that'll be 3.5%. Our preceding year tax rate was 0.748447. And our proposed tax rate is 0.743447, which is a half-cent reduction in the property tax rate. So as you can see, the proposed tax rate is approximately 1.08% below the rollback rate. And so there will be a council vote on the tax rate at the regular council meeting, which is the next council meeting on September the 17th, starting at 7 p.m. in the council chambers here at 203 East Wheatland. And with that, I'll turn it over for the public hearing.
We will now open the public hearing at 7:32. Anybody wishing to speak, please approach. Seeing none, Chair will accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. Please vote. Thank you. Item 5B, conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance to amend the existing downtown Duncanville, quotes, DD district zoning to include a specific use permit to allow a party/event facility, parens indoor only, on a portion of Main Commons, Block 3, Lot 1A, approximately .617 acres, more commonly known as 134 North Main Street in Duncanville. Our city planner, Ms. Allen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I believe
the information that always goes with the public hearing whenever time we have, well, I should back up. Anytime that we have a rezoning issue like this, then letters are sent out to individuals that own property within 200 feet of that zoning change. And as a result of that, Mr. Anderson, Councilmember Anderson, does own property within that 200-foot radius, and he did submit some information to us. However, we can or choose not to accept that information. As a result, he has properly recused himself from this particular situation. So I hope that's understood by everybody. Okay, Ms. Allen.
Right, the request before you tonight is by the applicant Israel Munoz, requesting an approval of a specific use permit for an event facility at 134 North Main Street. The existing building is approximately 4,428 square feet. It was once a church, and then most recently it was a dance studio and some additional church offices. And the interior of the existing building would be renovated for the proposed event facility. There is no proposed expansion of the building. The property does fall within the downtown district of the comprehensive plan, which, as you all know, is one of our opportunity areas. The intent of that opportunity area is, of course, to encourage a mix of uses, walkable, entertainment, restaurant types of facilities. This proposed use would introduce an evening activity in the area that does not currently exist and would not compete with daytime tenants for the public parking that is available in downtown. And that becomes important because of the parking requirements, or the non-existent parking requirement in the downtown district ordinance. This is the map of the area of request. There are two buildings on the property, and the building on the northern portion of the 134 North Main Street is the property where the event center would be, or the building where they would house the event center. As it relates to parking and traffic, the applicant would be able to utilize the public parking that's adjacent to the subject property and any of the parking that is available in the downtown area. As you all know, the city did construct some public parking along Main Street, which is open to all downtown patrons. The downtown district does not require on-site parking per the ordinance, and so the applicant is able to utilize that public parking for their facility. There are approximately 22 spaces immediately adjacent to the property, but again, they are public, they're not privately owned parking spaces. The applicant has indicated, and actually staff has reviewed, most of the businesses that surround the use would close between 7 and 8 p.m., and so it would minimize some of the parking conflicts that may exist. Generally speaking, when we talk about event centers, there are usually some conditions that council has approved in the past as it relates to safety and alcohol. These are some of the conditions that were considered by the P&Z, and they did recommend these conditions to be added. One specifically that should there be any alcohol served, that a TABC licensed server be present or be required for any event where alcohol is served, and then the requirement for licensed security officers, which the applicant has indicated that they would be off-duty police, to be on site for larger events and for events where alcohol would be served. The property is surrounded, or again, with properties that are in the downtown district, but it does immediately abut streets, Cherry to the north, Hastings to the east, and Center to the south. The other building, again, to the south of the event center is currently occupied with office uses. Again, when you're considering a specific use permit, you are to consider conditions that make it appropriate and compatible with the surrounding area. It would be appropriate, as the Plan Commission also recommended, a time limit as it relates to the approval of the SUP to evaluate the compatibility of the event facility as it relates to the other uses, as well as there's any issues with noise or violence and things of that nature. Again, that's not an uncommon condition as it relates to event centers. This is the proposed floor plan of the space. It's primarily an open space. They will have some office and then a prep area. There is no cooking on site. The applicant indicated that they would be working with local caterers to provide a preferred vendors list for catering on the site. These are some renderings that were provided by the applicant in terms of some of the interior remodel that they intend to do, and some minor aesthetic modifications to the exterior. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request with a vote of 5-2. During the public hearing, there was discussion related to the parking as well as the hours of operation, and as I mentioned also related to the security. So they did add those recommended conditions to the SUP before you all. There were letters sent out as a matter of requirement for a public hearing. We did receive 2 positive responses, and we did receive 1 response in opposition that was received after the packet had been put together. So you all, I believe, received a copy from the city secretary of that letter in opposition. The applicant is present to answer any questions, and I'm available as well.
Okay, this is a public hearing, and so at this time we will open the public hearing. And okay, so right. Okay. Right. So Israel and Monique Munoz, would you like to speak? And just for information, the Munozes are the applicants. Please come forward. And just for the record, please state your name and address.
Monique and Israel Munoz. We live at 611 Adams Drive, Duncanville.
So thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and present tonight. We are actually here just to answer some questions that you may or may not have. Concerning Destination Duncanville, we feel that this special use permit should be allowed because we feel that we would bring a lot of foot traffic and evening traffic for the local area that is currently lacking for the businesses, and we do feel that we would positively impact the surrounding businesses and the neighborhood. So if you have any questions for us, we're here to answer those.
Council members, any questions? I have one question or comment. We, as a council, have previously not approved additional event centers in our city. And considering, I think we already have, what, 4 or 5? This would be an additional event center for our city. Could you explain to us why you believe that we need another event center?
Well, currently I actually work in events. I'm a part of the Society of Wedding Professionals, where we have multiple meetings throughout the months, different areas. We like to showcase different cities. I feel that Duncanville is lacking I would say like a luxury or upscale event center. With that being said, I feel like what we would both bring to the table, with my experience, with his experience, we would bring benefit to the area, as well as bringing in more traffic and more like upscale vendors, meaning more business into Duncanville. I've looked at some of these facilities in the past because, as y'all can tell, I'm pregnant. So it was something more that I felt that we were lacking, just because as I was trying to look for a local venue for baby showers, weddings, as I'm a planner as well, I didn't feel like that was found here in Duncanville at the standard that we would, or the clients that we, it's their standard. So that's why I feel like this would be a better benefit to Duncanville.
And also the venue that's right down the street is closed. So that would eliminate it to, I think, 3 venues now throughout Duncanville now, not including the senior center.
Okay. So, Ms. Munoz, your differentiation, you use the word luxury. Is that how you're differentiating the need for this event center versus others?
I would say a little bit more upscale, more than luxury. I have a background in luxury, that's why I automatically say luxury, but more of an upscale event center, which again, I feel is lacking in Duncanville.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Questions? Okay. Oh, Ms. Jameson, sorry.
Your time of staying open until 2 a.m. That's all.
Oh, that one we're willing to negotiate on. We can do 1 a.m. That's perfectly fine with us. It's just whenever you think of an event, typically events end at 2 a.m. just because that's when TABC law cuts off alcohol. But again, we're open to changing that.
Okay, so that we can change the SUP on that area. It seems like there was the trash situation.
Concerning the trash situation, every contract that we would sign with a potential client, we would be holding a deposit, and also myself or somebody from MI Events from staffing would be there to make sure that the event center itself and the inside would be cleaned up. Any trash inside and outside would have to make it to the appropriated designated areas for trash. To my knowledge, there are 2 dump sites for that location. So in the contract, we would say that all trash must make it to the designated locations. If not, a fee or a fine will be imposed on that individual with the contract.
Okay, well, this would probably need to be, something would need to be written SUP about the trash, because the neighbors are concerned about that and the overflowing.
Concerning, there's somebody here from the management company that's gonna speak about that as well.
Okay, I'm talking in terms though of the SUP, how we word that to say what we in the city would like the trash to be picked up and dealt with.
You're looking for a stipulation in the conditions to add one more in terms of trash remediation by the contractor or by the party that contracts with you for the event center. Is that, am I getting it right there?
Yes, and the times, I'm not sure what, 2 a.m. I think is a little late.
We agree as well. We would wanting 1 a.m. would be better with a cutoff time of alcohol about 12:15, 12:30, but event end time at 1 a.m.
And the parking that you have available, where were you going to, how many parking spaces do you anticipate that you'll need?
It just depends on each event. Every event will be different. Some events will be smaller ones like baby showers or small corporate events. You were talking about 40 to 60 individuals, and most people do go in pairs. So that's about 20 to 30 parking spaces. They are about 22 parking spaces to the left of the event center, and up and down Main Street, you do have public parking Also, where Rice Pod Express is at, where the main station is located, we have spoken with the owner of that area, and we are able to use that parking lot as well. And it's roughly about 300 feet away, so walking distance isn't that bad.
We're also looking to valet companies as well, and then partnering with local businesses around. I know we were wanting to look into like the Duncanville Ministry Outreach to see if we can probably do business with them using their parking lot, and seeing if we can probably partner in the future in case there are more need for parking spaces.
Yeah, that's of concern. I don't know what's the maximum amount that you can have in that building.
Maximum amount of people?
Amount of people currently, I want to say the certificate of occupancy has about 128 people, and we would want to have about 150 max to 140 max of occupancy for that building. But every event will vary.
And so if you have 150 people and you're looking at, what, at least 75 cars?
Correct.
More?
And that's when the valet company would come in. We would want to do a parking agreement with the local businesses, like my wife mentioned. The outreach center has a large parking area that does have about 50 parking spaces. If you put into account the 22 spaces next to us, and also all the parking in Main Street Station that we're allowed to park in, and up and down Main Street, there's plenty of parking. And we wouldn't be affecting the local businesses because our events would be in the evening, and most of those businesses close by 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.
Well, the restaurants don't close that early.
Correct, but right now a lot of the restaurants don't have a lot of foot traffic, and that's what we would benefit from, giving them plenty of foot traffic, giving them business, giving them clients.
I don't know. It seems to me that maybe the contracts on the parking should have been worked out when you came forward on the SUP, so that the parking would be allocated in advance.
Originally, we were told since everything is public parking, and that's why I mentioned we would want to partner with local businesses. However, since the original occupancy of the space was 128, did they also have to allocate so many parking spaces? Because it would be a similar situation.
I just want to clarify something as it relates to the occupant load. So ultimately, the occupant load will be determined by the building official and the fire marshal based on the fire code and building code. So we don't 100% know that it would be 150, but it would likely not be more than that based on the way that the code is calculated. As it relates to the parking requirement for the previous occupant, because the downtown district does not require parking, there is no parking ratio that is determined for those individual businesses. The intent of that ordinance was to have people utilize the public parking and share parking and walk and things of that nature. And so there's really no parking ratio established in the code for any uses.
Except that we've never had an event center there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, there was one at 106 Freeman, which is in the downtown district, which is just a block south of this subject property. That it was an event center that was approved in 2013. And their occupant load was 148. Social arts, no, it is not in operation.
I guess I just feel uncomfortable about not, I understand that the other businesses, you know, in the downtown area don't necessarily need to have certain numbers of parking spaces, but if you have an event and it's a big one, you could blow out the whole downtown area in parking. There's not that much.
Correct, but as she mentioned, like the social arts event center, so that was one that I looked into previously. So they did not have stipulations on the parking. There was not any issues with their parking, and then we would be taking over their parking area. So that was what my husband was mentioning, like the Rice Pod Express parking lot area, that little main station, apologies. So pretty much we would just be kind of taking over that situation. So I don't believe that there should be an issue. Again, we would also want to encourage valet to be utilized, so that way we're not only taking up from the local businesses there, but they can easily access the public parking in the whole area.
Well, you also have the theater, and sometimes they have plays, and, you know, there needs to be parking for them. Have all these businesses been talked to?
Not all of them, but most of them. But going back to the social arts, they have a CO of 148 people, and there wasn't an issue in the past, and we're going to be taking over their parking.
So the businesses that the businesses that we did talk to were pretty much affecting the exact block that we're in. So it was the local businesses in our exact area. So we didn't go out past towards the theater or anything like that. So apologies if we didn't go out there, because again, we're just pretty much taking over their parking area.
Well, the rice pot's on the other side of it from you.
That's where the art center's at.
Correct, and that's where the art center was at. So the art center's closed. So since they're closed, they're not using that parking anymore. We did talk to the owner of that building to see if we can utilize their original parking area, which is that main street.
Right now?
Yes, completely.
And they're not going to rent it to anyone
No.
else?
They're not renew. Well, from what we know of, when we spoke to their landlord, they're not renewing.
And you have consent from the Duncanville Outreach, because they have, you said 50 parking spaces, there's no issue with them?
No, that's still what I mentioned. We're still working on that.
Working on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to come up with a use agreement with them, whether it be a monthly, a weekly rate that they would lease it for us if they're open for that. And if not, we'll reach out to other businesses in the area that have large parking spaces, like the call center. There's a church down the street, businesses like that.
Okay. Mr. Cooks?
Mr. Munoz, we talked signage. Would your signage be on the top of the building? I guess I didn't see.
No.
No signage at all?
No, sir, no signage. We would only put the standard sign where we're allowed to. There's a donut shop there, a barber shop, and they have signs, and I don't know exactly what you would call it. It's on the corner of Main Street and not Center. I think it's Cherry, correct, you're right. We would put a signage there, but there would be no signs on the building itself.
Okay. I have a question for Chastity real quick. I'm just trying to understand. Is the SUP for, if it's not for parking, is it because of the type of
For the use.
business, for the use?
For the use, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all the question I had.
Okay. I have a card, Mr. Jace, is it Owsley? Yes, sir. Yeah. Please give us your name and address.
Jace Owsley, 111 East Davis Street. And basically, I am here in support of these two, but also to represent the, not only the management company, but the property ownership. So if there are questions related to trash, I know was one of the issues. We do have trash in place that is designated for this property. It's picked up 5 days a week. We escalate it as needed. If there is something that's more that's needed, then we take action. We have a watchdog on that street. She tells us everything that we do wrong, and we know it, and we try to take action as quick as possible. We are very aware of our surrounding neighbors. We want to make sure that this is something that works for everybody. This was an old church, so it did have a lot of events on Sundays, and it did have a different setup back then. However, the city has made this concerted effort to work on the parking analysis for this area. And I understand the concern of parking, but technically the idea of the parking constraints has been relaxed in this area in order to promote these businesses to come in and try to make something happen in this block. I think that the intent of the use is something that works well in this property, and that's one of the reasons that we pursued this. We've talked to the city on different other types. Churches didn't work well there, we understood. So before we can get the exacts on parking agreements and things like that, we needed to know this allowed use could happen. And so we're trying to take the steps. It may seem backwards from what you were talking about, so I get that. But it's kind of one step at a time to try to figure out how we can make this work. And so basically, I wanted to offer anything I can to you guys if you have any questions about the property itself or things that we may know as the management side of the property that could help you in making a decision that's best for your city.
Okay, Mr. Cooks?
I really have another question from the Munoz, and so you mentioned that most of your events will be after hours, after the other businesses are closed. So does that mean you will not accept any businesses during the business hours from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6?
We would look closely into them. I mean, if it would benefit us as well as some of the local businesses. I mean, if we're having like a small baby shower that's not going to take up a lot of parking during those times, or a bridal shower, or a small conference meeting, whatever it may be, we would also want to partner and tell the local businesses around so that way they're at least notified. But that's something that we would take into account and we would probably do. But again, it wouldn't be all of them. But that's why we said most of the events will be in the evening. There's not a lot of events that will happen during the day.
So you would have any contract to limit the number of uses of parking uses during the day. So for instance, if max out, you can max out at 150 per se, or 75 cars. So you would not then have something in the mornings from 8 to 5 to say you limited to 75 people or 50 people?
No, there wouldn't be limitations to that. Like I said, large events typically happen Monday through Friday, early in the day. Those do happen on the weekends and later in the evenings. And it just depends event to event. We're not going to put limitations to the number of vehicles they can have, to the number of guests they can have. Yes, that's up to the city officials to let us know the occupancy rate in there.
And if we did, would that hinder your business? If we limited the number during the day, would that limit your business? Would that hurt your business?
Yes, that would eliminate certain events, so that definitely would put a hindrance to kind of shutting us down before we even open, because we don't know what events are going to be held during the day and what events are going to be held on the weekends. We have an idea, mostly bar mitzvahs, weddings, sweet 16s, quinceañeras. Those will happen in the evenings, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. But the smaller events, typically ranging from 20 to up to 60 individuals, do happen during the weekdays, and that's going to be corporate events, conventions, luncheons, and things like that.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments from council? Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, got to close the public, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
And closing the public hearing at 7:59. Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Pardon me? We just closed the public hearing.
We just closed the public hearing. I voted to approve.
Yeah. So we have a motion to approve item 5B. Is there a second?
There's currently a motion on the floor to approve as submitted by P&Z with their conditions, which are those 11 that are listed in your packet. If you wanted to change those, we would have to first address the motion that's currently on the floor. It hasn't been seconded, though.
It has not been seconded. Is there any other motion that wish to be made?
Make the motion that we include a limit of 1 a.m. and
how would you address the trash?
Well, as I mentioned when we were talking to the applicants, there would be a stipulation between the parties that rent the facility and the contract that is in that, and that contract is going to stipulate that the renters would maintain all the trash and make sure that there is no issue with that.
Mayor, if I might make a recommendation as it relates to that condition, stating that trash must be disposed after every event in the designated dumpster. And I don't know if you want anything more than that. Well, I don't know what you want other than they're always required, there's required to meet certain ordinances. So I don't know, the city attorney may have some better wordsmithing.
Well, I mean, again, there's already the conditions for the P&Z approved. If you'll pull those up, where they're responsible for complying with all laws, which would include city ordinances. Then also the applicant or the operator, MI Events LLC, is responsible for providing staff during the events to ensure compliance with all rules and regulations. I think that would cover any city ordinance as well. That's the management company, and that's what he spoke to is about, as requiring them to dispose of the trash in certain areas. If you wanted to be more specific, you could, but I think the conditions as stated would cover those.
Okay.
It just seems like that we haven't nailed down a lot of things on this SUP.
But they're covered by the stipulations and already what's here in the SUP, as the city attorney has already mentioned.
Well, not necessarily the parking. We've left it open to downtown, but we've never had an event center right there. So
there was a church there, and the church was not under conditions, and there was an event center right around the corner, and it was not under any conditions. To impose conditions on this particular event center is opposed to what's already on the books.
No.
Once again, the chair will entertain a motion to approve item 5B.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 5B subject to the conditions stated by P&Z, and also that they will close at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Second.
That they will close at 1 a.m.?
Please vote. Thank you. We are now going to consider item 4C, which was on the consent agenda. It has been moved to the items for individual consideration. I will read it. Consider resolution repealing the establishment of the Duncanville Senior Advocacy Commission with the reassignment of advocacy for senior related issues to the Share and Care Site Council.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'll make a few comments before turning over to your deliberation. The Senior Advocacy Commission was created in 2015 following a public campaign to get citizens involved with our community. As created, it reports to the Park Board, which in and of itself is a little bit different than our other boards and commissions. Since the inception of the commission, due to many factors, it has really struggled to gain momentum, and they often had a lack of quorum preventing a meeting. With the Park and Rec Advisory Board and the Share and Care Site Council in place, the redundancy factor of their service is the reason we're here talking about its possible disestablishment. There's been some misconception about the Share and Care Site Council. I want to talk about just briefly. The Share and Care Site Council was created many, many years ago when the city decided to partner with the DAAA and have a federally funded lunch program. That is a requirement of that service. I like to think of the Share and Care Site Council much like you would think of the Friends of the Library. They support the senior center, but they do not have any policy-making authority, nor do they spend any funds, or are they given any funds from the city. Since they do not create any policy, if the Advocacy Commission is disestablished, Any policy decisions will again go through the park board as it always has, and ultimately come to the city council for your consideration. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have.
Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the disbandment of the Senior Advocacy Commission.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion and item is approved. Thank you. We are now back to item 5. This will be item 5C. Consider an ordinance approving a negotiated settlement between the Atmos City Steering Committee, ACSC, and Atmos Energy Corporation Mid-Tex Division regarding the company's 2019 rate review mechanism filing, declaring existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable and in the public interest, approving an attached exhibit establishing a benchmark for pensions and retiree medical benefits, approving an attached exhibit regarding amortization of regulatory liability, requiring the company to reimburse ACSC's reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this ordinance was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, adopting a savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring delivery of this ordinance to the company and the ACSC's legal counsel. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So just to give you a real quick background, in April, Atmos Energy Corporation filed a rate case, and then at that point in time, they were asking for additional system-wide revenues of $70 million. Then the Atmos City Steering Committee, we applied our standards to their request, and saw that we reduced that to $54 million. And then we had further study by the Atmos City Steering Committee through our consultants, and they concluded that a system-wide deficiency under the RRM regime should be at $38.7 million. And then after we had discussion with the Atmos and additional review with the consultants report from Atmos City Steering Committee, the Executive Committee and Atmos negotiated a settlement that would allow them to have an increase of $35.4 million. So the results would be an average residential increase of $2.05 a month. That's about a 3.7% increase. And then the average commercial increase is $6.18 a month. And that's about a 2.31% increase. And so staff recommends approval of an ordinance that would approve this negotiated settlement between Atmos City Steering Committee and Atmos Energy Corporation Mid-Tex Division.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Richard, I understand that this particular methodology of calculating the Atmos rates, there is an alternative way of calculating the rates that's out there. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is another method called GRIP, and the Atmos City Steering Committee determined a long time ago that there was little or no input into the rate making under GRIP. It was pretty much a filing that the energy company would do with the Railroad Commission, and pretty much got stamped approval of it without receiving really any input, nor allowing the cities that are served by Atmos Energy to negotiate a lower settlement. The RRM filing, which we got Atmos to agree to abide by that, it does offer negotiated settlements, and we do have the ability to hire consultants to study their rate increase request and to negotiate that downward.
So in your professional judgment, our involvement with ACSC has been beneficial to our customers over the years?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Summerlin, you are a member of that ACSC, if I recall. Is that correct?
I actually am the city's representative on both Atmos and Encore Steering Committee, and I also serve on the Executive Committee.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further input, Chair will entertain a motion to approve item 5C.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and we have a second. Please vote. Thank you. Item is approved. Item 5D, consider a resolution nominating a candidate for Board of Directors of the Dallas Central Appraisal District, DCAD. Mr. Summerlin.
Very quickly, the tax code, Section 603 requires an election or appointment of members to the Board of Directors of an appraisal district be conducted in odd-numbered years. And so the term of office is 2 years, beginning in even-numbered years. So since this is 2019, we are needing to have a person that's nominated and recommended. So the qualifications for Board of Directors, they must be a resident of the Dallas Central Appraisal District for at least 2 years prior to the election. They may be an elected official of an agency that's represented by the Dallas Central Appraisal District. They cannot be an employee of an agency represented by DCAD, and they cannot be related within the second degree of consanguinity or affinity as determined under Chapter 573 Government Code to an individual who's engaged in the business of appraising property for compensation for use in proceedings under this title, or representing property owners for compensation in proceedings under this title in the appraisal district. They cannot own property on which delinquent taxes have been owed to a taxing unit for more than 60 days after the date the individual knew or should have known of the delinquency, unless the delinquent taxes and penalties and interest are being paid under an installment payment agreement under Section 3302, or a suit to collect the delinquent taxes is deferred or abated under Section 3306 or 3365. An individual is ineligible to serve on an appraisal district board of directors if the individual is engaged in the business of appraising property for compensation for use in proceedings under this title, or of representing property owners for compensation in proceedings under this title in the appraisal district at any time during the preceding 5 years. And so currently, Michael Hurt, former mayor of DeSoto, has served in the past, and he's the current board member. And he has indicated to the appraisal district that he has a desire to be reappointed. And with that, I'll turn it over to the council for nominations.
I'd like to make a motion that we delay this until we get other candidates in to consider any other candidates. And I know there's one out there that we need to consider to look at as well.
Motion has been made to, I guess, table this item.
Second.
Until,
Yes.
or, pardon me?
I just have one comment.
Oh, Mr. Augman.
Mayor and Council, just so you know, according to DCAD's letter that is in your packet, I was just looking at the dates, and they do have a deadline of October 15th for nominations, which I believe is your next meeting, next council meeting, is that night. So we would have to make sure then that they will take that the next day. I just want to make you aware of that.
Okay.
So then we would be in jeopardy of losing our nomination?
I don't know. I mean, I think they'd probably take it the next day, but I'm just wanted to make you aware that that is the deadline. That was October 15th.
Okay. We do have a motion on the table to table this item to a later date. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to delay this. Please vote.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have a comment, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so happens that for several years, when Michael B. Hurt was mayor of the city of DeSoto, during the time they received the All-America Award designation, It just so happens that I was Assistant Director of Finance with the City of DeSoto, so I personally know Michael B. Hurt. He's extremely capable, extremely knowledgeable about municipal affairs. And so whether we vote this evening or vote at a later time, I will support Michael B. Hurt being in that position 100%. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and I would support him as well. But we do have a motion on the floor to delay this, and we have a motion and a second to delay this consideration of this item. So, understanding how the vote goes, if you vote yes, you are voting to delay this. If you vote no, you are voting not to delay this and to give consideration today. Please vote. Motion is defeated. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve item 5D, and we have a second. Please vote. Oh, and, okay. In the paperwork itself, it indicates that Mr. Michael Hurt has desired to continue in this position. So we have the resolution number 2019-085, which requires the insertion of an individual's name. So if you look at that, it's in section 1 of the resolution itself. City Attorney, by the fact that we have approved the resolution, we still need to approve Mr. Hurt to be his name to be entered.
Correct. You
Okay.
need to actually nominate somebody.
Okay. Is there a nomination?
Motion to nominate Michael Hurt.
Second?
What did we just do? We approved.
With the resolution.
We didn't approve we approved the resolution. We did not approve a person. So now we're approving the person. The motion has been made to approve Mr. Michael Hurt as our candidate to the DCAD. There is a motion and a second. Please vote. Thank you. City Secretary, at some point, Mr. Hurt's name will be inserted into that resolution for our signature as well. Thank you. Item 5E, consider resolution authorizing award of bid number 19-046, water utility improvements for West Center Street from North Cedar Ridge Drive to North Horn Street, water and wastewater utility improvements along current alignments with the Center Ridge Apartment existing assessment easements, and water utility improvements along Center Ridge Drive from South Cedar Ridge Drive to the Center Ridge Apartments to Douglas Daily Construction, LLC, through the city's competitive bid process with an estimated expenditure of $2,184,136. Mr. Ramey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, I'll be talking about the contract for the water wastewater improvement at Center Ridge, and this is in alignment with the city's work plan. Again, our staff request tonight is for your approval of this bid to Douglas Daily Construction for the amount shown of $2.18 million. The locations are given, but I'll show that to you on this map. As you can see, it's a significant area along Center Street and then around the Center Ridge Apartments. For the history and the background, again, what we have for water line is an 8-inch cast iron pipe. We've had issues, not since I've been here, but in the past with some water quality issues in that apartment with red water, which precipitated this project. And so the intent for this is to redo all the water in this location to improve their water quality. We also have existing clay tile wastewater pipe in the area, and as I know with our previous conversations about sanitary sewer overflow, this improvement will help with that as well by getting rid of the old clay pipe, which deteriorates. This is a year-long period of performance. We did include in the contract stipulations about encouraging the contractor to get the work done in front of Hastings Elementary School during the summer, and if they are unable to finish during that time, we stipulated some truncated hours so that they would not be working during the high traffic times of the school year before, during pickup and drop off. As you see there, we got a lot of folks looking at this bid, and then we received 5 bids for this. A little bit about Douglas Daly. They're based out of Mesquite. They've done a lot of work in Mesquite. They've currently doing work in Balch Springs. They've previously done work out of state. And then more recent, even before that, Douglas Daly did some work, had a different company doing work down in Houston when John McClain, who was introduced to, or y'all were introduced to during the briefing session, called. All the references, they all have very glowing comments about Douglas Daly, both in state and then with his out-of-state customers that he had before moving to Mesquite. As you see here, there's a breakout between the water and the wastewater funds, but it's all coming out of the utilities enterprise fund, CIP. Again, the city staff's recommendation to you is the approval of this contract and the price of $2,184,136 to Douglas Daly. Subject to your questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed in the RFP solicitation that the work is actually divided into 4 separate sections. Hypothetical question. The overall work was considered in an aggregate, not in each individual piece. So Douglas was 2.18 and the others were there was one just somewhat above that. Very, very close in competition. But was there any consideration given to evaluating each of the 4 pieces and awarding 4 different pieces versus awarding an aggregate?
Be perfectly honest, no, we were looking at it as aggregate, as this as being one collective project.
So what are the pros and cons of looking at them separately?
Well, I haven't thought about that, to be perfectly honest, because we were just going with lowest bid overall. The cons that I would see, well, the pros would be we may get a better price over all sections. The challenge is synchronization of the projects. The other challenge that we have is also supervision of the projects, and so a challenge that we have with our staff is being able to, we need to manage how many contracts we are supervising and maintaining control of at any one time. So adding 4 extra contractors doesn't really help us, and then also being able to make sure we synchronize. I would foresee that as being a challenge for this project.
Okay.
A lot of it is sort of laid out. Really, we were doing that mainly to help us set out our design more like for a work breakdown structure in terms of helping us do the design and create the bid spec or the bid tabs to help us, help the contractors in preparing their collective bids. It also helped us sort of make sure that we fenced off that area around the school because we wanted to give that special consideration and emphasize that work would be done during when school is not in session. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's acceptable. Mr. McBurnett?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion is approved. Item 5E is approved. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, staff and board reports. Received the monthly financial report as of July 31, 2019. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This report is as of the end of July, and that's the 10th month in the fiscal year. So our benchmark revenues and expenditures would be 83% of the budget. Our general fund ending unreserved fund balance is 12.1 million, 146 days of operations, and that's based on the 2019 adopted budget, and that's about 71 days or 6.2 million in excess of the benchmark 75-day reserve. Our current property tax collections are 99.4% of the budget. Sales tax revenues at 65.1%. The data here reflects 8 months, so the benchmark you really should compare that to would be 67% of the budget. So you can see that we're trailing a little bit behind our projection. Overall, general fund revenues are 86.3% of budget, while the expenditures are at 68.3%. If you just look at the operating budget, they're about 73.4%, so still a little bit less than that 86.3 benchmark. This is the standard graph that we do each month. The purple line is the straight line of the budget. If we earn those revenues consistently and evenly over time. And then, of course, the red line is the actuals that we've earned, and then the blue line is a 3-year average. And so you can see that with property tax being the main revenue source, we spike up in the January, February time frame. If you laser that out and look at that, you can see more clearly how those property taxes perform as they come in, and then there's very little after the end of January that comes in. Our general fund revenue sales tax, as I noted, we're definitely a couple percent, about 1.5% below where we estimated, and we expect that by the end of the year that we're probably not going to make that gap up. We probably are going to end the year about 1.5% below our budget. General fund expenditures, as I noted, staying a little bit below the budget, and it trends right along about the same as our 3-year average. If we look at our utility fund, the ending unreserved fund balance is $3.2 million. That's 62 days of operations. Based on adopted budget, the utility solid waste revenues, of course, are always 1 month behind due to the billing process. So the benchmark there really should be 75% of the revenue, and overall utility fund revenues are at about 74% of the budget. So we're tracking right on target, and overall utility fund expenditures are 75.8% of the budget. So the same graph here showing our actuals compared to our budget and the 3-year average on revenues. And then this chart shows how we're performing on our expenditures. Then our one-time projects, those that are highlighted in yellow are complete. And at this point in time, we have about $80,000 of unallocated savings from projects that have been completed. And I'll answer any questions.
Go back, please. Okay, any questions? Thank you very much. Item 6B, receive the Public Works Quarterly Report. Mr. Ramey.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. First thing we'll look at is personnel. We've got a few folks that we've hired and or promoted. As mentioned earlier, John McLean joins us from Criado as our graduate engineer. We promoted Jim Schlachter, our former building inspector. We promoted him to our building official in May. We hired our new building inspector, Roundy Goucher, earlier last month, so about 3 weeks ago. Sherry Butler came to us in June as a new code officer, and we actually have our 4th slot filled, and she'll start on Thursday. So it'll be 100% in the building official's office. These are some recent accomplishments. This is not our tank, but it is a good picture of what goes on in our tanks. We had 2 of our elevated tanks tested, where we had all our tanks inspected, and then we had these 2 tanks at Clark Road and River Oaks cleaned. So there's this over time, you get sediment accumulating in the bottom of them. And we got those cleaned, and yes, they are cleaned by scuba divers and inspected by the scuba divers as well. Just a continuation of our pipe bursting. Again, we've been working on this pipe bursting project since roughly November of last year, and they'll be around until November of this year. This again was a $2 million in pipe bursting effort, and now they're over in Forest Hills. Code enforcement, Wynn was just working with the 7-Eleven at West Camp Wisdom, and encourage them to get their windows all fixed after they had a robbery. You see the before and after. Our sidewalk crew continues to work in West Park Estates. The green is all the areas where they've completed the work. The red and yellow is where they still have work, but they've been there a while. And again, our strategy with the city's sidewalk crew is we're just moving from subdivision to subdivision based on condition of the sidewalks and proximity of those neighborhoods to walkable areas, mainly schools or other, that's the primary one, or just some other amenities like the library and city center. For work plan status, you can see here we've got 23 that are in progress. You'll see the 4 that we've completed, the 2 work plan items that we've not been able to start. One was we're still working on just some more improvements to our GIS maps on the website, trying to help better visualize or capture what we're doing in CIP and with some more zoning. And the other one is our Irwin Kiesler construction, which actually we have bid opening later this month. So we're just a little bit behind on that project and getting that one started. Just going through our metrics. I'll just tab those through with you. Again, our valves, as you see, our goal for annually is 900. We're at 126 year to date, and that was again one of the reasons why we were recommending as part of the budget the valve exerciser. As you see, we have 1,800 valves, and our goal is to touch those at least every other year, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted the valve exerciser. The large meters, we replaced them. Our goal right now, again, is 16. We've done 2 so far. We'll just see how many more we need this year. One of the challenges that we do have in the utilities department is, whereas we're running about 80% overall in the utilities department, at the crew level and the crew leader level, we're running about 50%. So as our manpower definitely affects our ability to hit some of our utility metrics and our goals. The manhole rehabilitation, we do a few every year, and our goal is around 87, and that's not only because we're getting ready to start the spray lining. So that's something that we do typically in the summer, and we just haven't, as of the metrics, we haven't done that yet. And then you'll see our lateral lines being repaired. Under street maintenance, again, we're tracking on on those goals. Again, we're running behind usually with the utility cut repairs. A lot of that has to do with when we have weather. Again, April and through June, we had, still had rain, and that affects our ability to get out there and fix those cuts and within the 10 days, which is our goal. And traffic, tracking there. And equipment services, again, these are our pacers. We've had a few pieces of equipment that were on extended, sort of up on jacks, I guess, we'd say deadlined, mainly ambulances sometimes we have certain parts that we have to send them off, and then we're just waiting on parts to come in. And then we've had a few pieces, and luckily hasn't really affected our overall operational readiness. But sometimes we've had a few challenging pieces of equipment that we're just sort of having the vendor sort of just troubleshoot all the way through the system. But it hasn't affected our operational readiness, as you see here. Again, with building inspection and code enforcement, we're tracking there as well. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Ramey? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we stand adjourned at 8:37. Thank you.